Hey. I agree with that. Uh-huh. Yeah. I was gonna say, have you ever tried Moodle? I thought, yeah. Look, one excruciatingly slow step of progress at a time, and look, Teams is not perfect, but considering that I was right there, spending hours formatting and populating content in Moodle, only to have it being hardly being accessible to students is a whole thing. Look, it's better than before, and it's not great, but I guess we're stuck with whatever TAFE decides to do when it comes to Microsoft. I think it'd be easier if everything was just on Google or some other thing. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, and could be worse, as they say. Hey, it's been free for a bit. It's been free for a bit, so the upturn in TAFE students is great. But I think in turn it's just it might highlight some workflow issues. But considering where I've taught before, you should have seen Abbey Road Institute when I was working there. Oh lordy. Oh, wonderful, wonderful campus, wonderful staff, and at least when it comes to TAFE, uh, it didn't feel like it was completely unorganized. I I ended up having to write like writing material as I was teaching. It was hilarious, but well, it is what it is, and we're lucky here at TAFE. Well, let's just considering my what I seen from other courses and personally experienced from other courses. So we're pretty lucky here. Yeah, it is not by coincidence either. I remember looking at class notebook and I just thought it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like why would students want to use this? So it just made more sense to just put it all separate. Crackle and pop, crackle and pop. Is that from Elliot or from me? Yeah. Either way, it's good now. Yeah. Just send it straight to me. Either email or direct message through the chat in Teams. So just straight to me, yeah. That'll be easier. It's okay to put it through submission, but then obviously Teams being Teams, they think you submitted some work. So it's not a problem. It just looks messy, but it's easier to send it straight to me. Yeah. Okie dokie. So all good, all good. 5:35. Let's start. All right. Welcome everyone to another lovely week. I have to remind myself it's week 11, not 10. When you look at my notes, it says the old system of 9, 10, 11, but we're a week ahead because of Music Week. That's okay. It's not. That's easy to figure out. Today's what should I say about today? Today's an interesting one, I feel. It's always interesting in my mind, but today, hopefully you'll leave today with a better understanding and realization of why people, a lot of people, I say a lot of electronic music producers use this specific style of synthesis today. So of course we're going straight into it. We're talking about wavetable synthesis. If you heard of very popular tools such as Serum, Vital, Pigments, what else is there? Massive. The one thing that kind of ties them all together is the fact that they are all wavetable synthesizers, which we wouldn't know because, you know, until you did this course, you probably thought, it's just sound makers, right? They're all synths. Synths are synths. They're all the same. Rudio saw last week that that's not always the case. FM synthesis is a whole beast in itself. It works differently. And the way I structured this course is you start with easy to get results, subtractive synthesis, analog style synthesis, because yeah, it is what it is and you work with what you got. Then I showed you FM synthesis because it's different. You're now thinking more about harmonics and how interesting they can sound. In the case of wavetable synthesis, you have this interesting culmination of all of that. And as a result of all that kind of combination, you get a tool that in this day and era seems to be, for a lot of artists, their go-to choice of music making tool when it comes to electronic music. Of course, I'm not going to completely disregard any composer out there, any songwriter, because I know there's other tools like sample-based sounds, which we all talk about. We talk about all of it here. But if I was to think about electronic music, besides hardware, when it comes to software, wavetable synthesis is the one. So let's go straight into it. Let's look at one, yeah? Let's give you a link straight off the bat. And I'm going to warn you now, today is going to be a lot of link sharing, so it's going to be slightly annoying. But just as a reminder, we do this because we want to give you good audio, because Teams audio sucks. Nothing like listening to super defined sound design when you get left with a mono signal at low bitrate. We don't want that. We want things at high quality so we can hear what the hell I'm talking about, right? So jump on that, but we'll be doing this at least 5 or 6 times. So just fully preparing you now. All right, so here's a project. It's not my song, it's my recreation of a popular song, but I'm not going to play it to you yet because I want to talk about wavetable synthesis first, the actual theory behind it. So Ableton, in its default library, has a wavetable synthesizer called, surprise, surprise, Wavetable. Let me zoom in a bit because that's too small for me. Okay, that's better. Ah, yeah, that'll help. No, I wasn't. Here we go. Good catch. There we go. Boom. All right, cool. Thank you. Who was that? Is that Raquel? Someone said it. Someone saved my hiney. That's good. Thank you. All right, straight into it. So Wavetable. This is Ableton's Wavetable. It is a very powerful synth. It's a bit quirky when you compare it to the other popular names. That banging on the door is my son. He's a little bit active today, so I'm going to try and have no distractions here. Yeah. Okay, so this is the synth. If we play it, nothing special really, just beautiful sine wave, right? How's that level? Is that okay? You can hear that? Cool. All right. Now, first off, some parts of it you might be able to decipher as being somewhat familiar. So let's just say we don't know what wavetable synthesis is. Some of you might not. You might look at this, you go, all right, where do we start? Most sense, oscillator, filter, envelopes, LFOs. Okay, cool. Oscillators, OSC, OSC. Okay, there's OSC 1, OSC 2. That seems to be deactivated. If I press this box, boom, I get 2. Right, sweet. So I got 2 oscillator wavetable synthesizer. Even though I don't know what wavetable is yet, it just called that, right? But I do see some familiar suspects. I have this thingy that looks like a sine wave. And if I was to click here or here, I can see, it seems like I can morph between a sine wave to a triangle, to a saw, to a square. This is kind of familiar. That's okay. That's good. All right. I see a filter, frequency cutoff, resonance. There's 2 old buddies of mine. Sweet. Thank you. That's good. Then I see amp. Amp is amp envelope. It has to be, right? And how do I know? Well, it says ADSR. It's an envelope. It's labeled amp. That should be my main envelope. Okay. So this is very familiar. It should be anyway, right? It's very familiar to analog synthesizers, but there is one major difference, plus a couple extra ones. But here's what wavetable synthesizers, why they're called thus, right? This, my friends, is essentially, for lack of a better description, is just an audio recording. So it's a sample. Okay. So remember back weeks and weeks ago, we talked about my basic waveforms, the little zip folder I gave people to use in your simpler. It's kind of based off that. So it's sample based. Okay. The difference is when you're playing the sound up and down the keyboard, you don't ever have to worry about tuning. Because this instrument is tuned, A. B, even though it's sampled, it doesn't matter where the sample is, what the sample is, it's always going to be in key. Because its job isn't to play back a sample, so to speak. Its job is to be a synthesizer, mainly. Okay? So I hope that's clear. This is an audio recording. Do you want proof? Let's just go to my little, let's go to Foley. What's kind of random here? Backspin, clock. Oh, that's a bit synthy. How about this? Clip empty pistol. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's go with that. I can drag any audio file that's wave at least. You can drag an audio file into directly the oscillator. Cool. You can see the name of that. Something's there. So if I press the key, it's very thin. It just needs some volume gain. Apparently that's the sound of the clip empty rifle. And note that I'm playing a C major chord, I believe. It still sounds like that. Still sounds like a C. So the key's still there. And what's interesting is if I pitch my keyboard very low to C0, you can kind of hear the sample in its original pitch. But still, what's happening is this audio recording, what's happening is the synth is scanning through this recording and playing just a segment of it and repeating that, giving you this oscillation sound. And what a wavetable synthesizer allows you to do is to freely sweep the recording. We call this oscillator position or wavetable position, and you can freely sweep. Now there's a lot of sounds here. So if I go to basics and go back to basic shapes, which is my favorite and a lot of producers' favorite ones because it's familiar. This act of sweeping the wavetable, so the audio recording in the wavetable synth is called a wavetable. That's the name of it, which kind of makes sense. It's a table of waves. I can sweep through, which is great. Now, besides basic shapes, being a more future-centric, quite a recent style of synthesis that was conceived, you're going to expect to see some odd sounding wavetables. When I say odd, this is still in the basics category. There's more. Complex. That might sound familiar to some people. Right, and even some more interesting ones that are like vocal-like. This formant one. Even instruments, piano. If I do this, you can kind of hear the piano in it. Actually, let's go to C0. Okay. That's that piano part, because I pitched it really low. But its job is not to sound like an existing instrument. Its job is to make an instrument sound like a synthesizer. So on the face of it, if someone said to me after that little demonstration, said, "Man, that sounds so digital and thin and harsh," well, that's kind of its name of the game. It's analog synths, what we've done before, their job is to sound organic and lush and warm and all the good stuff. Oh, do we have a question? Oh, well, this is all default. Yeah, well, it's all different. So this is a stock library of wavetables, and within the stock categories, there's multiple wavetables within that. So these are all unique. And where it gets interesting, it's what you select, but if you want to use your recordings as a wavetable, nothing's stopping you from just chucking it in there. So you can add your own, and then on top of that, you can layer it with another oscillator just to make the sound more interesting. So it accepts any WAV file, maybe AIF as well, uncompressed. And its main job is to turn these kind of audio recordings into synth sounds. But as I was alluding to, it does technically have a more precise, sterile, digital sound. It kind of makes sense because all the analog stuff, it's based on analog theory where instruments were working off electricity, hand-wired circuit boards. So things had life to it just by nature of variances and tolerances. So when you press the keys on an analog synth or a good analog model plugin, you can hold a chord down and there'll be some natural movement to it. It's kind of its wonder. And also when oscillators are playing, those oscillators are cycling at various rates at different keys, and they also drift, hence Ableton's drift, where you get the oscillator to cycle, but it might be faster, slower, amplitude higher, lower. Gives you this nice moving sound. All wavetable synths don't do that. Right? They're very precise. That's why they have this kind of very precise sound. Very static, right? That's not a bad thing, because I'll tell you why this type of synthesis, if I'm wrong here, to tell me now, but it seems like in the scope of people making music on their computers, it's the one. Most people use a tool that is wavetable based, okay? Now, so far so good. This wavetable section is different, but it's not that hard to understand. It's just more sounds that are not just sine waves and saws, and the behavior is more precise. Plus with the added quirk of adding your own recordings, which is kind of cool. But what you expect to get is something quite digital sounding, okay? Now, when we see these two filters, something I said last week is that as soon as you see filters, then you're seeing a subtractive synthesizer. So this synth is a wavetable synthesizer, but it uses the subtractive method. So in other words, what's good for everyone present is that workflow-wise is exactly the same as before, as the first 2 weeks of synthesis. So you pull up some sounds on some oscillators, tune them to whatever you want, and then filter it, and then add some modulators. But this is where it gets interesting, and this is I hope to bestow upon you this thought of being intentional with your sound design. This synth can sound very bad in inexperienced hands, right? But it can sound amazing when someone puts a bit of intention into it. So if you were making sounds, let's go back to basics here. If you're making sounds like this, where you just pull up a saw wave or something, pretty standard, and you maybe filter it a little bit, play a bit with resonance. If you just did that, you already know what I'm going to say. It's not enough. Not enough. The sound lacks something. Lacks character, lacks movement. It's not horrible, but it's very static. And wavetables synth, you can't hide behind analog. So analog synths, you can hold these notes and there's a little bit of movement. For wavetable synths, it becomes more obvious. Right, very plain sounding, right? So here's where it gets interesting to me anyway. The key is realizing how flexible a good digital synthesizer is. We saw a little bit of it in the operator synth last week. This week, the world expands even more. And even in the case of Ableton Wavetable, it's actually quite limited compared to Serum, Vital, and Co. But we'll see that soon. So straight away, I can see a tab here that says Mod Sources. Mod sources, what could that be? Modulators, your source of modulators. I can see straight off the bat, I have an amp envelope. That's a given. I have a few more. I got envelope 2 and 3, plus I have 2 LFOs. Great, okay. Now here's the thing. If I tweak these other envelopes, nothing's working, right? Of course nothing's working, right? Because this is not going anywhere. I don't see this envelope here, do I? There's nothing I can click here that allows me to change the envelope in here. Because now things are separated. You have your filter section, you got your oscillator section. On things like Serum, you might have an effects section, plus more. But the point is you have a dedicated area for your modulators, and to get them to work, you need to start drawing out the map, so to speak. You have to start going, all right, I want to send this envelope somewhere. So whereas previously using the plugins of Analog and Drift, they're modeled in a way that a synth might have an envelope right next to the filter section hardwired, and you just need to turn it up and get it to move. This time, you actually have to send it there, okay? So when I say in my classes, send your envelope to the filter, send your envelope to the pitch destination, send your LFO to your filter, yada yada, I hope you understand why I'm saying that, because I'll demonstrate. Envelope 2, how do I send it? I only see the shape of it. I see the ADSR. I don't see no sending. Why? Because it's all done in the other key aspect of all wavetable synthesizers, matrix. Full name, modulation matrix. Sounds like a very technical word. It's not that crazy. It's just a one-stop page that allows you to see your modulations and send your modulations. Okay. So a quick glance will tell me I'm doing no modulations at the moment. Makes sense because I hit a key. Nothing seems to be moving except for amp. Because that's the one I made earlier. And that's the one that's always default. Sorry, it's this one. So the amp envelope's doing something as it should because it's a subtractor synthesizer, subtractor wavetable. So let's get our filter moving. Let's get our plucks or meow sounds, right? That the stuff that I talk about in class and sounds weird to hear all the time, but we should be becoming more familiar. Let's do it. To do it, I click on what I want to send the envelope to. So let's click that. And it will show up here. If I click something else, it will refresh to that. There's these two other ones. They're on by default. We'll go back to them near future. But I want to send an envelope, in this case number 2, to the filter cutoff to create filter envelope modulation, as in to create a pluck or a meow. Two basics, right? So to do so, I clicked it, it shows up here. Now I'm going to look at this table, modulation matrix, and go, all right, well, let's, envelope 2 is here, filter 1 is there, therefore I need to go here, click it, and drag either upwards or downwards. Upwards is positive value, downwards is negative. This is what we call bipolar, right? Oh, hello. Now, this is the next beautiful benefit of wavetable synthesizers being full digital, being a modern thing. You actually see your modulations for once. Woo, finally. So I'm not moving anything. It's my envelope 2 that's doing that. Let's do a pluck, no sustain, fast attack, shortish decay. Let's set a better starting point. Let's go smaller, or more muddier, I should say. There you go. So that's what a plucky synth sound actually visually looks like in terms of its filter movement. The filter is just opening quickly and shutting quickly. That's the timing we set up. Yom, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down. And that sort of sound, well, we know would be great for these type of things. Arpeggiators. And that's still with one oscillator. We can add a second oscillator if we wish to. And there's two familiar friends here, semitone tuning, detuning. Remember, if we detune one of the synth voices by a bit, we get this richer, chorused kind of sound. Right? So now we have movement, we have some character, which is great. Let's change this to a more meowy pad, just a lush kind of pad sound. Very easy. The envelope setup still, the amount is still set up. I just got to reshape it. So let's go slow attack. Oh, take the arpeggiator off. Okay, so I want about 3 seconds, decay, some attack, some sustain. Ooh. Watch my volumes. Always watch your volumes. Okay, so if you weren't confident with your envelopes and your LFOs before, it's okay. This is a synth that awards you for trying it, having it a go, by actually visually aiding you in the process, as long as you get comfortable with this matrix. So to review, click the parameter, shows up in the list, make a choice. You can even use the amp envelope. So the one envelope that is overall, you can even use that to send it to the filter too. But then it starts to make sense when I say things like, oh, I don't like that synth because there's only one amp envelope, no spare one, so I can make more distinct shapes. Because having the amp envelope just for general setting, like a longer release, slower attack, and then shaping the filter with another envelope, envelope 2, I clicked the wrong thing, didn't I? Yep. Gives me a more defined sound. Okay. So there's that kind of mechanic that you gotta get used to, but also it's very familiar. It should be anyway. Let's do something with the LFO, and this is where it gets really fun. Is that Wavetable Synthesizer being fully digital, you can do multiple modulations. You don't need 50 million, you just need 2 or 3, right? So in the case of in what's being modulated, I only have one thing at the moment. Let's do another classic thing of making vibrato. So what do I need for vibrato? I need an LFO, something that goes like this, and I need to send it to a pitch destination. My mouse is literally right on it. That's a default thing right there, pitch. So that's the pitch of the whole instrument, the oscillator pitch for both oscillators. So if I send this, I get my fun UFO sound. It's not very vibrato, isn't it? Because the higher and the lower I send it, so the higher number or the lower negative number, I get a bigger pitch deviation. This equals 4 octaves. 48, that's 4 octaves. Of course this is going to sound cartoonish, but if I want vibrato, I only need roughly 0.2, 0.3. It's going to sound a bit like VHS. What I want to do though is I want to click on LFO1, so you can click these modulators to actually see their settings, and I might want to make it faster. Let's make it slower again. You can make a scooch more obvious if you're struggling to hear it. 0.3. Slightly drunk sounding. But as you can see, 2 modulations is better than none, and actually 2 is enough to be used in a musical application. So if I just added some reverb, I have a sound that I can use in a piece of music. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think so. Start lower. That's better. So with those 2, we have a sound that evokes a kind of classic analog sound. Without those 2 modulations, this synth sounds horrible. It sounds very boring, right? But that's kind of the point. As long as you have a game plan of what you want to do, and don't fret if you don't think you'll remember the type of modulations and the destinations. We're going to do a full review after a couple of weeks. So I'll do a full review and even give you that cheat sheet I was talking about in previous classes. I'll officially give it to you, this cheat sheet. So you have this reference chart of technique and where to send things for vibrato, meow, pluck, just so you'll never forget. Because here's the thing, now we'll listen to something in context. Plucks, meows, vibrato, those sorts of techniques are used all the time. Even in music, if you think sounds so spectacular or whatever, those techniques are as fundamental to anything when it comes to synthesis. Here's my proof. I have a recreation of a track from KX5. Now, if you don't know who KX5 are, it's actually a collaboration between a fairly big name dance music producer, deadmau5, and another fairly big name dance music producer, Cascade. And it sounds a little bit like this. Hopefully everyone's got the link here, listen to link. But here we go.
I'm not invisible to you. Do my eyes speak true? My soul so in touch with yours tonight. Won't let my head take flight. We could leave this place, freedom ours to chase. What if I escape with you? 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 What if I not invisible. So what if I
You get the gist. God, those AI ripped vocals are horrible, but how else am I going to get those vocals, right? So if you find the original, it's called KX5, song's called Escape, pretty much very close. But what's interesting is not the fact that there's not that many layers. Look, drums, kick, hi-hat, close hi-hat, open hi-hat, claps, 2 claps. Then you have this main synth, which is a pluck. So when we say pluck, we mean a sound that sounds muffled, but when you press a key, it kind of pops, bong, bong, kind of like a guitar, dang, dang, right? And yes, I'm not using Ableton Wavetable, but I'm using a free plugin. It's called Vital. It's fantastic. So yes, I will be talking about a lot of third-party plugins in this lesson. Why did I use Vital? Because why not? It's free. And I'll explain the difference between Vital and Serum and Co. shortly. But what's more important to see is you start looking at Wavetable synths and you slow down on the thought of thinking, oh, that's so complicated. You should be able to decipher it as we do these lessons more and more. For example, oscillator, filters, envelopes, LFOs. Let's see it. Oscillator 1, 2, 3. Only one's being used right now. Filters, there's 2, only one's being used. Envelope 1 is the amp envelope, that's over here. And I have 2, 3, 4 envelopes plus 1, 2, 3, 4 LFOs plus 2 random generators, which can be used as LFOs. So going back to the Ableton Wavetable thing, you had amp envelope, 2 extra envelopes, 2 LFOs. That's a lot. Vital's got more. Does the more mean the better? Not necessarily. I do like the fact that Ableton Wavetable only has 3 envelopes and 2 LFOs. It's good for a lot of things. But there are times when I'm making sounds, my own sounds, where I do need the extra one, extra LFO, this and that, because sometimes you just have this idea for a sound, and this is the tool that if you have your principles locked in, it can allow you to do so. Now you might go to yourself, well, Dave, you only talked about plucks and meows and wubs. You haven't talked about a lot of other sounds. Well, it's because if we just flick over to the instrument's built-in effects, these are all built-in effects. All these parameters are targets too. Let's let that sink in. So let's just say I want to note this note to not have delay straight away. Let's do delay so it's obvious. I'll turn this on off. There's reverb on there from one of my plugins here. Let's see if I can find it. Turn it off for now. Cool. So what if I wanted the note to have some delay eventually, if that makes sense? So instead of doing this or this, maybe I want it to go like this. Like that, like just after the first instance of the note. Well, I can do that if I just tell myself, well, how do I want to time this? Maybe I'll use an LFO. Send an LFO. So in these tools like Vital and Serum, it's very visual. You look at the LFO, you find this little arrow, you point it at a target you want. Okay, it's there. And now I can shape it. I can shape when I want it to turn up. Let's go even more subtle. Oops. Like so. Ooh, boom. So no delay, some delay after. Let's bring it a bit sooner actually. Very end of that note, so after the initial bong, then there'll be a tiny bit of delay. Now this is jumping up and down. All right, that seems like a very specific thing, niche kind of thing to do, but the thing is, if I want to try it, I can. All in one tool. Does that kind of make sense? It allows you to kind of like what's the word? Kind of like figure out a type of sound in your head and allow you the kind of all the tools laid out in front of you to assemble that sound. So what I'm saying is, yes, it's a sample-based synthesizer that has no character. It's very precise engine. It doesn't sound great by itself, but the moment you actually utilize the modulators, the sound comes to life. And that's why I feel like, as an observation, a lot of electronic music producers use the likes of Serum, Pigments, Vital to make specific sounds, because how else can you get it? Do you buy a sample that sounds close to it and adjust it here and there? No, it's actually not hard to start thinking, well, I want a note to kind of have this kind of washout effect, lots of reverb maybe, but maybe only in the second half. You just send an LFO to it. really. So LFOs and envelopes, I said once in the early stages that they're our helping hand. They help us turn things up and down. That's what it is. So it allows us to turn multiple aspects of the instrument by itself at every key press. Yeah. If I bring the reverb back in, it should sound quite nice. So the sound itself is not complex. It's only one oscillator. And if we look at envelope 2, envelope 2 is being sent to the filter. The filter is muffled, as you can see. But because of the shaping here, that's a plucky shape if I ever seen one, right? Press a key, that pluck opens, that envelope opens the filter quickly and shuts down quickly. Bong, bong. Beautiful pluck, yeah? And because deadmau5 is involved with this production, tell you what, he loves plucks. Plucks in all his songs. So that's part of his sound. He's a pluck user. He might use any synth to do it. He's plucking away, right? Just some nice chords. Ooh, that's another deadmau5 song. I swear I heard that in the deadmau5 song. Anyway, he's a pluck user, right? Even though it seems simple, there you go. You just find techniques you like, sounds you like, and you exercise them. You make them the way you want, and make them work for you. This is a very deadmau5 thing where he opens the filter after a long time. And it's actually very simple. So the filter is opening slowly. It's simple, but it works. Let's make it more exaggerated than the original. Let's tell it where we want it to go. Let's cut it down. So you become the conductor when you combine it with modulation and all that stuff in the sound. Then you conduct the sound using automation. You tell it what to do throughout the track. And this track, the fact that it's that one riff, pluck sound, filter cutoff is the only thing really changing throughout the entirety of the tune, goes to show you don't need much. You just need to kind of have the components there and exercise them the best you can. And actually, you might argue that's too simple, but I think I will counter that by saying, well, it's more about the vocals, isn't it? It doesn't get in the way of the vocals at all. It's almost like a rock band, like a rhythm guitar just doing his thing. Bong, bong, bong. It's kind of that same kind of concept. But let the singer do the job, right? Anyway, so that's a pluck sound. There's also a bass sound and a little melody. Bass sounds very simple as well. Its main job is to create that rhythm of that kind of side chain pumping. That's done with side chain. Well, in this case, I'm using utility to get more of a precise result. And if you know what I'm actually doing here, you might instantly think, did you actually program a manual sidechain? Yes, I did. So there's little cuts. I did it by hand. Why? Because I was just trying to get the right shape that the original was doing. Don't judge me. There's no modulation in the sound. It's just sine wave, two saws, one saw slightly detuned. There you go, the old thing. 2 octaves down, and surprise, surprise, the power chord. Yeah, that's 7, that magic perfect. Where's the perfect fifth? Yeah, just to give you that lovely, can't go wrong sound. And of course, being deadmau5, that filter cutoff is going to be affected. Ooh, something's getting more intense. So simple, but it works beautifully. All right, that's project one. Let's flick over. Already warned everyone here there's going to be a lot of changes. Let's change to this one. So just demonstrating some common practice synth principles, but just done on the Wavetable synth. And sure, it looks different with different plugins, but it's all the same process. So let's go here, log in. High enough quality without being too laggy. Did you use a certain site plugin to rip the vocal from the original? Yes, I used, there's a free one in browser based. It's not Lala, it's something else. I forget the name of it, but I'll find it and I'll send it, I'll put it in the chat. Okay, jump on, we're moving quickly. Here's another tune. It's by Tusoki. The track's called Cold, I believe. Yeah. Sounds a bit like this. Oh, there's only 3 people on. Make sure everyone jumps on. What? New link in the chat. Jump on. Make sure you jump on. Yep, we got 4. How many people here? 5? Yeah. 4. Okay, cool.
How could you be so cold?
So what's interesting about this is if we listen to the original real quick, this is what the original actually sounds like. Do you know the amount of copyright strikes I get in this week alone? It's hilarious. A lot more bending in his tune. I couldn't be bothered programming that, to be honest with you. I was just more happy I got the sound close. But what's interesting thing about this tune, I'm not saying that Tusoki had this many layers, but it seems like you don't need 50 million layers, 50 million tracks to make something sound good.
So cold.
These drums, you can call it just one drum group, but in terms of actual elements, kick, snare, hi-hats, some rides, open hi-hats, as you can see. Little mid-kick, just to add a little note in there, a bit of a gross note, little ride bell at every 4 bars. Kind of shakery hat, just a faster paced one to add some tempo. Snare nice and short. Kind of a 2-step kick pattern. Simple layers, not a million different micro drums. It's not that type of track. It's meant to be simple and straight to the point. In this group, I had the vocal ambient flavor. Adds a lot of color and air. Without it, it seems to be a bit missing. Although, I don't know if you agree, but with these 2 tracks alone, it's a lot. It seems to fill the space. So what's going on this lead, if we actually play it? Besides a bit of processing, let's just look at the actual sound. It's one oscillator, one sawtooth. What's different is that you have usage of white noise And it's not blaring all the way through. It's just playing whenever I hit the key. And filtered a certain way. Envelope wise, I'm just sending it to oscillator 2 level. So I actually make this sound slightly plucky with no filter. No filter pluck, just making it slightly bumpy at the beginning. So that's something different you haven't seen. Not a pluck using filter, it's a pluck using the level. Right? The other movement I've done, I was a bit more cheeky. I used auto pan for that. So you can see it here. Oh, someone mute. Let me just mute. That's okay. All good. I muted the thing. That's okay. So you can see here, just 1/24. I don't even know what musical division that is, but using auto pan at the beginning of the phrase. Just a little trill, so to speak, just to make it sound a bit fancy. But that's not my design. That is what Tisoki was doing. It's nice. It's a little bit, but it's enough. What's the bass doing? Similar. No modulation here, just basic, because the actual modulation is that little trill thing from the auto pan. So the sound without it. The kind of bounciness comes from the sidechain, of course. This note though, because there's actually 2 synths in one, is a noisier version. And then together they sound like that. Yeah. So this is when you start seeing external modulation, using other tools to modulate what you have, which we'll talk more about next week. Next week is more advanced modulation, so that'll start to make sense then. But it's kind of good to know that besides maybe this sound, this little cute sound, this sound has an LFO, a pulse LFO. So it's kind of like a bit like a dub siren. Let's make it ring out for longer. Alright, but I just had it quite short. Alright, so that's being sent to the oscillator pitch. So it goes like a siren, and that's all. But you don't really hear it as opposed to feel it. It's like your dinner's ready. So it's very simple sound, you know what I mean? But in the context of everything else, with a little texture, vocal texture. That's ear candy right there. Nice and simple still, yeah? So that's just not even so much modulation, that's just tuning. So that's just classic subtractive principles, which is pretty cool. All right, let's show you another one. I'll show you 2 more. Let's do this one. New link coming soon. Told you it's going to be annoying. But I don't know about you. It's nice to get good quality audio. Trust me, the early stages of me doing online with horrible audio. We only got this maybe a semester and a half ago. So what we had before, whew, Jesus Christ. With the latency on top of it, it's good times. No, it's not me, Elliot. It's me referring to the guide track. So, but when you look at the kicks in these tracks, it's basically no processing, and you'll see that more in here. Drum and bass, people. Let's do it. Let's get hype on a Monday. Yeah.
Pace it on.
Jump on. I want to see 6 of you in the new link. New listen to. Let's do it.
Pace.
Caracal Project. Wonderful talent, underrated. From the UK, I believe. He makes drum and bass, and you think of a drum and bass producer is going to be this laptop kid. He is a bit, but he's a singer and an instrumentalist too. So he'll sing on his own tracks and play guitar. It's actually different. It's kind of nice. But anyway, jump on. I need two more of you. Make sure you got the new listen too. Oh, question. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was good, looking good. All right, here we go. Ready?
You stare it like a Broadway play. The lights on your face can keep up the pace at all.
So I'll show you the original just so you have a reference point. This is what the original sounds like. Cool. So let's see what's going on here. Believe it or not, besides the bass sounds, they're plucks. So this is for Elliot here, by the way. Kicks, what do I have on it? What's so special about them? Nothing. They're clean. No processing. They're just nice. Tell you the industry dirty secret: beg, borrow, steal. As in, if there's a track that has a nice kick, sample it. Don't feel ashamed. It's not like you can copyright a kick. Yeah, why not? The kick's processed, it's ready to go. Grab it, chuck it in the drum rack or simpler. Don't touch it. You're done. You're there. Don't be too cute about it. You know what I mean? Aha! It's always revealed. So there you go. This is the drums. No EQ, no compression. It's just no need. It's all the drums. Well, not from the original actually. They're from various paces. But you know, you hear good drum sounds. Nick them. Don't be afraid. All right. So it's not about the drums though. The drums are clean. This is where the sounds are interesting to me. Here we go. Bum 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 bum. You can hopefully you can hear that as a pluck. Really, it's a pluck. There you go. Although it's a more defined pluck, and I wanted to show you this now because I wanted to mention why the likes of Vital, Serum, Pigments, you know, those big names, Massive as well, are always mentioned. The key thing, ever since Massive dropped in, was it 2003 or 4, roughly, music changed, electronic music changed. And that's because Massive, let's do a quick hop and a skip over to some pictures. I do have a picture of Massive somewhere, don't I? Downloads, gear, pictures. Here we go. Plugins. Massive. Yes. So on my screen is a snapshot of the old Massive. A plugin that's basically 20 years old, give or take. This section alone changed the scope of electronic music. Around this time when this was released, you had completely new genres popping up, such as dubstep, jump up drum and bass, electro house, a lot of genres that were like They have a lot of fans back in the day and are still referred to either consciously or subconsciously today, right? And the reason being is because Massive was the first commercial plugin. I say first commercial plugin because some people probably made their own custom programs within Reactor or Max MSP or PD, Pure Data. But Massive was the first commercial product that said, you know your LFOs, why don't you draw your own shapes? Okay. Now, let that sink in for a second. You can draw your own LFO shape. So if you wanted to, instead of a standard wham, 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 you can make it go whatever that is. Okay. And you can send it to wherever you want. So let's send it to the filter just for fun. Let's make it go faster. And this kind of liberating aspect allowed people to make basses, leads, pads, whatever sound they wanted, move however they wanted, modulate however they wanted, beyond your standard sine wave, square, saw, triangle. So if you can look at me, let's see my mirror magnet in this tiny window. If you can look at me, gone are the days where you have this knob, right? This knob you turn, where old LFOs allow you to go sine wave, which looks like this. Triangle, which looks like this. Linear. Saw. Right? Pulse. And noise. Oh, no, actually, hang on, sorry. Noise. Looks like that. Maybe that helps. But gone are the days of that, because now you can actually draw something specific, a very specific movement. You can make a sound go bra, bra, ba, da, 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 da. And next week we'll do that sound. Trust me. We're going to do a recreation of rival consoles. You hear a sound that goes brung, dun, 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 dun. And you draw that actual shape. Why not? Because people do. Try it out, see if you want to do it yourself. So this is a pluck I'm doing. But I noticed in the original, it didn't go pew, 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 pew. It went pew, da, pew. It's like it's a little punch at the end. So that's why I drew this pluck shape, but this little extra little knock upwards. It's like a double pluck. So in context, it's very subtle, but it adds this extra movement and bounce, which in context works perfectly for this track. And that's all you need. All you need is just something well conceived like that. One idea, two ideas, else is sorted, right? Bass, what's the bass doing? The bass is a bit more intense, although the bass is also, believe it or not, plucky. Of course, it sounds more than that because there's actually two layers. There's a sub layer as well. That's a pluck, but it's been delayed a bit. So the attack is a bit slower. So I have one sound made out of two instruments, both the similar shape, but the sub is going just behind the note. So it goes boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Hear it? So that's the sub with the other bass. It's very subtle, but it does enough. Especially when you contrast it with the beginning of the phrase, which is this obnoxious bass. And there's three actually. There's this little wub. If I solo just the basses and the drums, modern bass music. It's not so much one big sound. It's usually an arrangement of 2 or 3 different basses creating the groove. Hence the term drum and bass. Some good drums, some cool basses put together in a rhythmically interesting way. This bass here, zzz, just listen to this by itself. Oops, hit bass. That is just a fast modulation. This LFO set to no sync, standard triangle, but it's just going very quickly. That's being sent to oscillator tune. So it's getting out of tune slowly. Right. Those sort of basses you hear a lot in a lot of different genres because you can just have one note going bah, and it sounds intense because that fast movement sounds almost like the air's moving around you, a bit like air bursting out your speaker. Right, that's why it works. And this wub is a standard wub. You almost expect to see a filter envelope movement. Yes, you do. Low pass filter, very muffled. The shape is specific. Wum. And it's set to a quarter note timing. But it's only played once in this part here, just before the second 4-bar section. Wum. And that's enough. Nice and clean. By itself is kind of interesting, but in the context it works. Yeah? Very cool. Okay, so you're getting the picture, right? One more, I promise you. Sorry, 2 more, I promise. So this is the big one. So most of these recreations I've done are very short sections, but this one I did the full track because at the time of the release 2 years ago, I was completely in love with it. I didn't know the original artist would go this route that I love. The artist I'm talking about is Skrillex. But it's more so it's the fact that the collaborators are some of my favorite producers of all time. One is Sleepnet, the other one's Joker. Sleepnet is 1/3 of Noisia, one of my absolute favorite drum and bass acts. And Joker made dubsteps that sound like no one else. It sounded like West Coast G-Funk mixed with dubstep. It was amazing. Anyway, so this is my last recreation to show you today. There's one more that we'll do together as an exercise, if we have time, hopefully. Here we go. Listen to link. It's in the chat now. Jump on. Okay. Ooh, look at you. All right, here we go. Skip towards just before the last drop, last break drop. Cool. So why am I showing this? Well, despite being producers who are at the top of their fields in their respective worlds, and besides being a personal challenge to try and make something noisier affiliated, which is not easy. Why I'm showing you this is because it's just a combination of everything we talked about when it comes to wavetable synthesis. So A, it's still made with Vital, which means it's free. B, it's just everything we talked about in terms of the techniques mentioned before. So this sound is a slow LFO that just rises, and that's being sent to the volumes of these two. Now, what's peculiar to most of you here is that you're hearing something that you kind of heard last week done in a different tool. So I'm referring to FM, right? As a bass music producer myself, I love FM, so I'm always using operator. And if I'm not using operator, I'm using wavetable synthesizers because good ones allow me to FM as well. So currently, there's no FM going on. When this rises, the FM level increases. So if I just play a note here. So it sounds crazy, right? But I'm kind of creating feedback, but I'm actually creating FM. So this one note. Right? Sounds intense. I'm also getting some reverb throwing. So at the end of the note, the reverb rises. So the reverb mix goes. Gives you that nice kind of clean sound plus the effect after. This is very specific, but just know that it's possible. You have the capability in the wavetable synth to create what we call wavetable, or more specific, oscillator wave manipulation. You can make the waveform do things. So I can make it FM, plus I can make it do other ones, which I'm going to show you in Ableton Wavetable as well. So that's one of the sounds. The second bass sound is this rumble. So it's two layers. One layer is the noisy bit with a little pitch wobble. See that? That sounds useless, but with a clean sub, it actually adds texture. So this is the sub. No modulation there, so it's nice and clean with the texture. Nice and intense. Good combo. And then what other sounds we got? They're the main parts in this. In the first bit, a little extra third harmonic action here. So it's just a higher, different pitch to layer in that bass. Now the second part introduces you to a sound that by itself is, I wouldn't be surprised if the perception was horrible sound. Oop. Too high, too low. There we go. Like, what even is that sound, right? Believe it or not, it's a pluck. Right, very short envelope here and short envelope here being sent to the filter. But the difference is I'm also sending it to the resonance. So when I press a key, this pluck is not just plucking the filter slightly, filter cutoff slightly, but also it's shooting the resonance up by a lot. You can see it. So this creates a sound that is very unnatural, but it's kind of textural as well. And actually, if I go to that layer and take off this, it's actually, that filter is only actually being applied to the noise. So that's filtered noise. The sub is actually doing, this sub is doing nothing, it's just playing. Right? But in context, you get this interesting bass that's not typical. Sorry, I better give you the original for reference. Here's the original. So I determined, I heard that resonant peaking, and I thought, okay, I was just using that technique, which is cool. What's kind of nice is the reply to that bass line, that layer here. So there's kind of like just a standard wob wob with a filter. Yeah. And with this dirty kind of sound. Slow LFO. Nice and visual. And interesting, you see in terms of arrangement, you have this one note at the beginning, which is very obnoxious. It's just a bzzz, right? Nothing special. It's just this nothing fancy sound. But that sharp, yucky sound is at the beginning of the phrase to give you that intense kind of feeling. So what I'm trying to say is that you could cook up a kind of short, yucky sound or interesting tonal sound, just really short blast of it, and you can use that as a crash cymbal. That's essentially what's going on here. Beats the old crash cymbal in a lot of ways. The crash cymbal is very standard, almost cheesy in some ways. You can replace it with a synth and just make something that sounds weird. But that works. Okay, last bit, you have this extra part with the melodic sound. So here we go. This one's kind of interesting, modulation wise. It's a bandpass filter, so the one that cuts out the bottom and the top frequencies. And it's just sweeping through quickly because it's still, surprise, surprise, a pluck. I'm telling you, plucks everywhere. Why? Because it works. With the fancy technique of the reverb throw. So, bum, 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 off. You see that here. So, I did that with... Where's my reverb? Oh, did I do it in here? See, by itself sounds pretty nasty. Oh, there we go. See that? That's literally just reverb dry wet, 0 to 100 very quickly. So I'll show you the automation for it. We're going to have a full-on effects week, so don't worry if you don't feel comfortable with effects yet. That's coming in 2 weeks. Just chill out and then we'll... Definitely get creative with your effects for sure. Yeah, cool. Okay. Now, at this stage, I usually get people thinking, "Man, that's a lot. That's a lot of things to remember." And then other people were like, "That makes so much sense. That makes like I see why people use this stuff now." If you're in the first camp, that's totally cool. That's the point. This is a very deep instrument, but hopefully you understand why a lot of producers use tools like, I can't help myself but bring it up, tools like this, Serum. Oh my God, say hello to the king. And by default sounds yucky, right? But the point of it is you go, all right, let me see. How many oscillators you got? 3? Wow. 2 filters? Cool. Envelopes. That's what I want to see. 4 envelopes, 6 LFOs. Yowzers. Now I'll start cooking, right? But even though if someone was to ask me what's your Desert Island plugin, I would say Serum now. There was a time I used to say Vital before Serum 2 came out. In fact, I actually use another one called Currents, which I did my most recent releases with. They're all the same. They don't have a sound. You cook them. It's all workflow, right? But let's go into Wavetable and let's just review these kind of basics of what we've been talking about. Plugins. Oops, down here. So if we go back to Wavetable, it looks a bit more simple in comparison. You choose your shapes, you find your filters, you shape them using your modulators. And you can visually see what your filters are doing. But here's the thing, you're not limited to just filters and pitch just like before. You now can try things like, how about this actual oscillator position? That could be cool. But this one is moving too quick. I might use the second one. Slower. Linear. And this will get interesting if I use a different, more harmonically interesting wavetable. Shape this a bit. Let's get a second oscillator involved. Tune it. Perfect fifth. Now, I don't like obvious modulations unless they're meant to be rhythmic. I like to be a bit more subtle. Let's use a second filter. And let's shape that, envelope 3. Now, I don't have any built-in effects, which will make it sound very professional and polished right off the bat, but nothing to stop you from using Ableton's reverb and delay. Where it gets crazy is if I wanted to, I can send a modulation to another modulation. So you can actually modulate modulators. So this is a preview to next week, by the way. So if I want this to go faster eventually, I can send this LFO to LFO rate. Let's do it by unsynced. Everything's done here. LFO. Oops, sorry, wrong one. And that subtle movement. Things are jumping. That's what Wavetable synths can do. That's just, it's there for you to actually try and, explore a bit. But no point exploring the deep end if you don't know how to do your basics, I feel. So let's actually pare it all back and go back to our fundamental sounds. For example, let's do this together. Let's make a kick drum. Already, we see a sine wave. That's already one of the components we need. We don't need any other processing for now. So what do we need for a kick drum? We need a sine wave or a triangle. And then we need a pitch envelope. Now, Dave already said that there's no pre-routed stuff. You gotta send things. So if I don't have a pitch envelope, it means I need to send an envelope to the pitch. That's what that means. So, okay. First thing to do is to get the right starting point of my sine wave. I want it to be nice and low, personally. If I want it lower or higher, I transpose it. Let's go really low. Then I'll go to my matrix, and I'm going to use one of these spare envelopes to pitch. And the pitch is right there. Done. Okay, not done. I need to shape it a bit more. The shape I need is no sustain, fast attack, decay settings between 200 to 1 second, 200 millisecond to 1 second. Don't need release time. In both the envelope that's creating the movement, the pitch going boop, boop, like that, and the overall amp envelope. So no sustain there, everything else can just stay. There you go. That's a beautiful basic kick. All right, nice and easy. The fact that I can see my modulations, when I keep repeating techniques like pitch envelope modulation, filter envelope modulation, which equals send an envelope to filter, send envelope to pitch, it starts becoming part of your vocabulary, okay? And then you just go, all right, fine. Send an envelope to the pitch, send. Oh, okay. There's all my kicks I need for my sample pack. High one, low one. Let's make a longer one. Let's make a more distorted one. You can do that with an effect, or you can go into the filter modes. Hey, it's that thing again. Clean by default, analog model as an option. And when you click away from clean, you get drive. There you go. There's some more kicks for you. There's at least 3 in there. Let's use the filter. Let's use some resonance. Let's try triangle. Easy. Done. Oh, that's another one. That's another one. That's another one. There you go. When you start keeping the basics there and then start exploring from there, you'll be amazed of the possibilities with the sounds from there. And there's no need for 50 million plugins in the processing chain. You just need to know your instrument well. Okay. Now, let's do another sound. I already did a pad, didn't I? What else can we do? Let's do a lead. Oh, actually, let's do pad again. Let's do pad again so we are more confident with that. Pads, whatever waveform, but stick to the traditional saw and squares. Yikes, take that modulation out. You just double click it to reset it. It's a bit low. Let's transpose it up. Ooh, too brash, too sterile as well, not moving. So what do we want to do? Close your filter. Let's use filter envelope modulation technique. Envelope. envelope 2. Let's send that to the filter. And let's shape it. Oh, no, that's too much, just a bit. And then go to envelope 2. Some sustain. I'll go back to my main envelope. I need sustain again. That's my filter envelope modulation technique down. Let's do the vibrato technique. So LFO to pitch. You only need a tiny bit. 0.2 is plenty. Always watch your volumes. I'm getting very close to the reds here, so I'll just pull it down a slight bit. Do you want to do a wob wob pad? Sure. You have another LFO here. Maybe because you want to use a different timing. So the reason why you have multiple modulators in the case of a wavetable synth, you might have an idea of using various different rhythms in one sound, right? So maybe I'll have a faster cycle going to the filter as well. And I'll sync it to the tempo. So by default it's set to unsynced. This tiny little musical note, what's that, semiquaver or something, will turn on sync. So this will sync to the music, to the BPM. That's great. Too obvious though. I don't like obvious wobbling LFOs in pads. Be a bit more subtle. Things you can add. Remember how I said wavetable synths offer you the ability to shift and manipulate the waveform? This is what I'm talking about. This says none, means there's no shifting capability yet. So if I click this, FM, let's skip that. Let's go to classic. PW, what does it mean in a synthesizer? Pulse width. But wait a second, I'm on a sawtooth. This is not a pulse. Well, it doesn't matter. Pulse width just means narrow or widen the oscillator. This being audio, it doesn't know if it's a pulse or not, so it doesn't care. You're just changing the width of it. So if I was to modulate that to create pulse width modulation, well, I'd be a pretty happy dude. Let's do that. And that's when I start seeing things like this kind of fun thing. This guy is moving now. My sound is coming to life. Now, before I go too far, I'll tell you now, this FM thing is kind of a bummer for me because I like the ability to tell what oscillator to FM what other oscillator. That's why I use Serum and Vital and all that. When it comes to Wavetable, you can't choose the connection between the oscillators. This is just its own thing. So there's like a secret sine wave oscillator somewhere that allows you to create an FM. That's all. So I can't actually customize it too much. So I think Ableton missed a trick there, but then again they didn't because Ableton Operator is amazing. So that's just one thing. You probably won't be touching it anytime soon anyway, but just know that you can. And besides classic, you have modern, which instead of making things narrow and wider, which that's what warp does, fold allows you to turn into a Rorschach image. Why? Why not? reverb, that sounded quite good. And it started to make sense why the late 90s sounded the way it does. I said last week the 80s have a certain sound. The 90s had a massive explosion in sampled wavetables pads. Let's do a little trip nostalgia-wise, was they would play a chord. Oops, come on, where did you go? Where did you come from? Where did you go? There we go. Where did I save that? Where did that go? Did that go down here? No. Record that randomly somewhere. Let's try that again. So what they did was they would sample one chord typically. Let's just duplicate this. Turn it into audio. Put that piece of audio into a sampler on the actual machines. But in our case, we'll use Simpler. Okay. And just drag that into here. And now you have a one-note chord. So you hear these kind of jazzy movements, which is essentially it's just transposed chords. All right, it starts to make sense why the 90s sounded the way it does. Just transposed chords. I love that. Absolutely love that. Anyway, so that's pretty interesting. It gets even more interesting when you look at one of the quirks of Wavetable. There's these never seen before unison modes. There's plenty of different styles here. They're all different to each other. And their whole job is to make the sound bigger, thicker, using multiple voices, but they do it all differently. Classic is just a classic multiple voice situation. So you choose the amount of voices you want and how heavy this effect is. It's the only effect really on this instrument, unison. Sounds a bit like chorus, shimmer, bit of pitch deviation, noise. Nice and noisy. Phase sync, I like this one. Very old school sounding. Position spread, probably one of my favorites. The notes are just pushed around in the stereo field. Doesn't sound as thick, but it has a very interesting quality. And another one of my favorites, random note, where the sounds just jump around. And when you realize you can modulate that too, it gets really fun. Let's do that on position spread. Lots of reverb. I'm still holding one chord. See, it sounds like I'm playing some passing notes. I'm not. I'm literally pressing 3 notes on my keyboard. I'm not pressing that note. I'm not doing that. Love it. That's just so unique. It's not in any other Ableton device. It's not in the effects at all. It's unique to Wavetable. There's always something quirky in each instrument. I really love that. Anyway, one last time, one last project switch, and we're done with the multiple projects switches in one lesson. Trust me. This time, it's one of my favorite tracks. Listen to Link coming through. Last one, I promise you. Okay. High quality, please. In the chat it goes, is that a question? Oh, lots of questions. Just saying, Skrillex released a new album. Have you heard it? Yes, it's hilarious. This class should be a year or two long with everything packed into it. I wish, and I wish it showed up in Cert 3 as well. I'd love to do a more simple version for Cert 3. It makes sense, right? I feel like it's very important for electronic music, but you can't get everything you want. With the extent that you use racks, you can never afford to be a hardware guy. No way. No way. I was a hardware guy, and that's why I'm poor now. So, and I think I said this before, but ironically, my output now has maybe quadrupled since I've gone completely software, which makes sense because then the names I mentioned in this class, including Overmono, this current project we're looking at, Overmono are hardware guys, but a lot of their songs start in Ableton. Skrillex, he's only laptop. He has no hardware. Another person I found out recently who was a bit of a fan of, not Joy Orbison. Joy Orbison is also laptop only. But Porter Robinson, he's laptop only. And that blew my mind. It's just all, sometimes he sings on his mic, but it's all in the laptop, which is amazing. You don't need that much. Did you have a question, Elliot? This is not the official one. It's a beta, so it's still being tested. Yeah, so it's not actually released yet. So that's why I have these kind of funny looking customized folder emoji things, graphics. That's not in the current version of 12 yet. This is in the upcoming official 12.2. It's just not dropped yet because I'm in the beta testing team. I'm just trying it out, and currently there's a lot of bugs. So you don't want this yet. It's cool, but it's buggy as hell. I've had many more crashes than I ever had before. Actually, I never had crashes before, except for that one time in the lesson, I'm pretty sure, on the 12. And then ever since I got beta, I had multiple. And I had an annoying problem of plugins just stopped working halfway through a session. That's been ridiculous. So yeah, not quite there yet, but it's definitely good. Definitely good. Maybe different. Does it say 12.2? Because this is the 14th build of 12.2 beta. So it will tell you. So it might be a minor update, but like to fix some current bugs in the 12 version, 12.1 version. Yeah. All good, all good. Okay, so just flicking over to notes here. Teams. I'll move quickly. Just so you know, everyone, 7:30, I'm cutting the class right on there because I'm heading off to 2SER to jump on a show between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock called Shadows of Tomorrow on 2SER, playing a number of tracks I've never shown anyone before. So if you're interested in hearing a couple, four people, four nerds talking about music production and listening to music and listening to some of my music, it's between 8 and 10 o'clock tonight on 2SER Digital Radio. Okay, I'll pop the link for it in the chat later. Cool. Okay, so notes. So week 10, although it's week 11 really. Everything I've said thus far in class is here. So again, if you feel lost, it's in here. Everything. Including this week's exercise, of course. Typical, you'll make some sounds. I highly suggest you do so. Why? Because the sounds you make, you can save and use them and tweak them for your sample pack. Okay. So the song we're doing is So You Know by Overmono. Specifically, we're doing a classic sound called a respace, and a sound that we've done before, but just done in a different way, the detuned lush pad. Okay, so is everyone on the current link? Let's just see. We've got 3. Still missing? Make sure you jump on the latest link, please. A couple more of you. That should be in the chat. No, should be in the chat. Yep. Okay. All right. So the track goes a bit like this. Little splice vocal, which is hilarious because you don't hear a lot of fully professional songs using just a splice sample. They did chop it, but it's from splice. And the sound that first comes into play that we're going to recreate is the respace. What's a respace? A respace is a modulating bass. It's called the respace because it's by an artist called Reese, which is actually a side project of the legendary, one of the legendary members of the Detroit techno Bellevue Free, Kevin Saunderson, absolute legend. So in his side project called Reese, he made a track called "You're In," something to do with some sort of a sexy play on words or something like that. Reese, you something. Oh, just want another chance, and it's full of slightly disgusting vocals. But the beginning of the track is this iconic bass line that, because the track starts with the bass, it was so easy in the near future for artists to sample that because it's very interesting. So you can check that out in your own time. Pop that in the chat. It literally starts with the bass. It's fascinating because this track came out in 1988. So the sound of contemporary bass music traces its roots from an obscure side project house tune, which I love that kind of stuff. Like, I love showing respect to what has came before, because that's how electronic music works, in my opinion. Trends of the past come back, they're refurbished, they get rinsed, they get chucked away, and then the cycle comes back again, right? Things just keep coming back in play. You can't hear me still? Can you hear me? Everyone? Yeah, okay. The Spotify shouldn't have worked, so, but that's why I popped the chat in there, okay? Okay, so what's a respace? It's a bass that modulates in the way that when you play higher, up the keyboard, it sounds like it's modulating faster, and when you play lower, it's modulating slower. So it's almost like how a sample works, but it's not. It's actually through synthesis. And then, whoa, whoa. Faster. Okay, so that's a respace. I show you all the steps to make it. We just need 2 saw PW basses. So you find that under basics, and then it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9th, 10th one down, doesn't matter. And how it's working is because this second oscillator is detuned heavily, 44 cents. Filter cutoff low. Modulation wise, we're just doing a nice kind of smooth shape to the filter. So you close your filter down, just to kind of sound muffled. If you didn't do that, it sounds like this. Now without the effects, it sounds very warm and nice. In fact, that sounds closer to the original respace more than in this track. But I noticed that they do some processing, so we use a bit of a guitar amp sim, reverb, and most important is EQ that cuts the subs and increases the low mids. Gives a different type of intensity. So you'll be making that. And please try and make these sounds from the exercises, because I'd love to see you grouping them into one rack, saving it as your own, and just tweaking this, because you might try different oscillators. This is how you can change it very quickly. Cool. You might want to try adding an LFO. Let's sync it to the tempo. Let's do dotted eighths. That's fine. See if this works. See, still works. Maybe I like it a bit warmer. So that's a good way to test it as well. Just change some things, test it in the context of a track, see if it still works. And that's how you know if the sound is decent, right? If it fits a piece of music. So change it up. Do try and make them, because there's sounds for everything you need in the assessment in terms of bass, lead, and pads. It all fulfills that purpose. Speaking of pads, the other two sounds you're making are two pad layers. One sounds like this. Second one is a higher one. Together. And yes, this is a professional track with literally 2 chords, if you can call it that, and 2 notes in the bass. Great. It's all simple ideas, layering, processing. The other sound you're making is a bit of a bonus. You'll see in the notes that there's a bonus sound that's to be made with an FM synth. It's just a bonus. And it's quite literally a little percussive sound that you can use as a snare or a top sound for your sample pack. Simple. And literally, that's its function in the track, just to add a little bit of extra. Right? So that's for you. And if you look back in the previous exercises, they're for you too. The basses, the leads, the pads, they're all for you. I'm getting all these phone calls. All right, any questions? Oh, yes. Yes, no worries. Yeah. It's just sharing music and just like talking about how I made them and the influences and stuff like that. It's not super nerdy, but we nerd out a bit. We'll see, because I don't even know what we're meant to be talking about too much. But I heard previous shows, they talked about how certain artists recorded and what they did. So I'm going to be more than happy to nerd out though, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I got to shoot off at around 8 and then have some dinner right now, smash it, and then head off to SER. So if you got time or you want some background chatter, you can pop that on and have a listen. But yeah, any other questions? All good? No? So yes, wavetable instruments. What does this mean for you? More of the same, just a bit more level of complexity because you need to think about your steps a bit more. I would suggest getting Vital if you like what Wavetable is offering you. Vital opens the door to a lot of possibilities. Considering it's free, it's great. But yeah, hopefully it starts to click why people use these tools, because it's a full set of features and allows you to make some really cool sounds. So if you can conceive it in your mind, I want it to go wow, wow, blah, 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 then you can kind of draw it in and send it here and there. Cool effects, make it do expansive things. You can do that in one tool, which is great. But yes, if there's no more questions, then I'll leave you. Next week, we'll talk about advanced modulations. And then I'll start checking in more and more about your assessments. Okay? Cool. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you soon. I'll see you around. Bye-bye.